Hey, how you doing, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Excuse me if the audio sounds like crap. I am recording this from the gulag, so it was very last minute. As you know, Jehovah's Witnesses just had their annual meeting. This is an annual meeting for the Watchtower and Bible and Tract Society of Pennsylvania, and they have it every year, and usually they announce big changes. If you have been keeping up with the channel, you know that last year they implemented so many changes, like they got rid of our requirements, and then later on they would allow beards and slacks for women. A lot of changes. So this annual meeting was very interesting, but it wasn't as impactful as the last one. In fact, a lot of people were disappointed by it, but I will tell you all the details so you don't have to waste 3 hours of your life to watch it, because I wasted 3 hours of my life this morning to watch it for you. So yeah, let's get started. So let me give you the tea. Gag Flegel was presiding over the meeting. His beard looks a little more filled in now, but he was cracking some terrible jokes. There were so many beard jokes in this broadcast. Like that, I think in Bethel, that's the only thing they joke about. The beards, as if they weren't prohibited like a year ago. So Garrett Loesch has the first talk. You know, he has been looking old for decades now, but he brings out a mirror as a prop, and he tells us we're a reflection of Jehovah. So everyone is a reflection of Jehovah, including overseers, elders, and children, which is rich because this organization does very little to protect children. Then he encouraged us to let our light shine in front of other people. So yeah, that first talk wasn't interesting at all. Garrett Loesch has to be the most boring speaker right after Kenneth Cook. He also mentioned that the older generation needs to teach the newer generation so they can get privileges in the organization, because you know we're raising the future generations of pioneers and ministerial servants and elders. Of course, he forgot to mention the next generation of apostates as well. Then I think the biggest announcement of the meeting was the two new governing body members. It was Jody Gidele and Jake Rump, I believe. I know his last name is Rump, which is hilarious. I don't know much about Rump, but from Reddit we can tell that Jody Gidele is actually a real estate agent. So yeah, and they're both white, of course. Now it's 10 white governing body members and one token black dude. They only need one more governing body member to make like the 12 apostles. So yeah, two new clowns to run the show, because they're very aware that Stephen Lett and Samuel Hurd are actually not looking very good. So yeah, they're gonna need to be replaced real soon. Then we had a talk by Jeffrey Winder titled Glorify Jehovah by Serving at Bethel/Construction Work. And they just keep emphasizing the constant need for spiritually qualified men who can carry the load, because they need a lot of kingdom halls in the Congo and in Africa. He also played a video relating experiences from volunteers, and he announces that the governing body has decided that they will reduce the minimum age to serve at construction from 19 to 18. And then he gives some Bible principles to back up his point. At this point, the next announcement is going to be, yeah, we have lowered the age limit to 12 or something. Then we had a talk by Mark Sanderson titled Glorify Jehovah in the Field, and he also plays a video detailing the growth of the organization, you know, when it was actually a little bit more relevant to people back in the 80s and 90s. And he does what the governing body does best. He cherry picks statistics from Africa and, you guessed it, the Philippines, to use that as evidence that the work is increasing. It's the same tired message to try to pretend that this religion is not stagnating. He also announced that the governing body has decided that the minimum age requirement to attend the School for Kingdom Evangelizers, SKE, has been reduced to 21. And then he said, the preaching work is more urgent than ever. The work is not over yet. Do you agree, brothers and sisters? And then everyone clapped. There's a lot of clapping in the annual meeting, a lot of bad jokes, and a lot of the governing body has decided. Then Jeffrey Jackson had this talk titled, Don't Be Surprised by Sudden Changes, which got me excited because I thought they were going to announce some very interesting new light. But all he did was adjust two little things. He basically told the sheep to stop speculating on the number of anointed that would be remaining once the Great Tribulation starts. And he also told them that they shouldn't expect support for Babylon the Great, the world empire of false religion, to go down in all countries. And if you recall, Jehovah's Witnesses have long used these 2 points. The point that religion is having less support day by day. The waters of Babylon are drying up, and the fact that the anointed numbers used to be going down, in the 1980s and 90s. Jehovah's Witnesses saw those signs as evidence that the end was near, but now Jeffrey Jackson is like, oh no, you guys don't know anything. You guys don't know when the end is gonna come, so stop speculating. And then he provides some scriptural adjustments to say that it's a bit complicated, but he says that God is going to make the countries of the world give their allegiance to the United Nations, and the United Nations will in turn destroy false religion. Which is not much of a change from the previous teaching. It's just just a technicality. But yeah, I mean, listening to this as an outsider, it just seems like a crackpot conspiracy. The United Nations apparently is gonna be an all-powerful organization one day, and is going to destroy all religions as well. Yeah, and it's gonna happen very soon. Then we have the talk Blessings of Jehovah's Mercy, where they play a video of people, disfellowship people who have returned to the congregation, but they don't call them disfellowship, they call them removed. And it's super uncanny because everyone in the interviews is using the word removed instead of disfellowshipping, because the governing body said so. So yeah, this religion controls language in a very disturbing way. The propaganda is supposed to be very emotional, and even Gag Flegel gets very emotional, and he's about to cry. It's actually really disturbing. Like, there's like an awkward silence of Gage just staring at the camera because he's reflecting on Jehovah's mercy or something, as if him and his buddies weren't the ones upholding these horrific disfellowshipping procedures. Then Kenneth Cook, the most boring person in the governing body, who looks a little bit older now. He's not looking very good either. He says that Jesus and Jehovah never change. They're both just and merciful, and therefore they're not gonna change the disfellowshipping arrangement anytime soon. So this was like the governing body saying, hey guys, fuck you. We're not gonna be changing the disfellowshipping arrangements. Then Kenneth makes a big deal out of the recent changes that they instituted, where you're allowed to say hello to disfellowship people when they're at the Kingdom Hall, and he treats this as a massive show of mercy from Jehovah, And then he reads this letter from a disfellowship person, which is super sad because in this letter, this person says that when he went to the Kingdom Hall, he felt like the plague, like a walking plague. But now, thanks to the governing body changes, people can say hello to him and he feels better. And this is evidence of Jehovah's backing. You just can't make this up. All of this program has zero self-awareness. It's crazy. Next, we also get a new Caleb and Sophia episode where Zoe is manipulated even more by Sophia by learning about the resurrection. Because as you may remember, Zoe lost her grandma, and that's how Sophia was able to get her to study the Bible. So they're just continuing to use Zoe as an example of someone that's progressing to baptism. So yeah, I'll cover that cartoon in a future video, but it's very uncanny how the animators have actually gotten really good. The animation is excellent. Yet the lighting is much better now, and I mean, it's just so sad that they're wasting the talents on this cult propaganda. So we're going to be covering that very soon. Then we get a talk by Stephen Lett, who we haven't seen in a few months actually. And he's looking very, very rough. They say that he had been having trouble with his back, with back pain. Probably for carrying so much bullshit on him all the time. But yeah, he gives this talk about paradise and he rambles on. This guy is a yapper. Like, he looks terrible, but once he gets on in the talking mood, you can't stop him. He yaps and yaps about paradise fantasies, like, oh, we're never gonna get bored in paradise because there's infinite amounts of apples and infinite amounts of ways you can style your beard. I'm serious, he used that example. And we're gonna keep learning new things, and not everyone's gonna be the same, blah blah blah. Because this idea of paradise is hard to sell to a rational mind, so he must apply all this fantasy to it, and he just rambles on for 30 minutes about this. He doesn't even use scriptures. He just rambles and rambles, and I guess he's taking solace on this idea that he's gonna be young again, when in reality he's just gonna hit the bucket really soon and be replaced by other dumbasses. So yeah. We also got a video featuring experiences for the brochure Love People Make Disciples, and it's super bizarre because you got all these interviews with Jehovah's Witnesses saying like how they weren't really good teachers before this change, which implies that the Watchtower was producing bad ways of starting Bible studies, which is not the case because there were more Bible studies back in the 80s and 90s than right now. At least more productive Bible studies. But apparently now having conversations with people with the ultimate motive, the ulterior motive to convert them, is a much more effective technique. And then you got this dude that was like, he was saying like, oh, now we don't have an agenda when we preach to people. Like, bro, what do you mean you don't have an agenda? That's you're talking to people with the intention of sliding the Bible into the conversation. It's very insidious, and yeah, it's pretty much most of us the same. More circle jerking, more cherry picking statistics. This entire program was just trying to motivate the sheep to do more for the kingdom, pretty much. And the final talk is David's Plain. They hype up his talk because they say, oh, you're gonna have a real treat with this next talk. And it's just David's Plain talking about how we can glorify Jehovah by our actions. Then he announces the 2025 text of the year, which is based on a psalm. Give Jehovah the glory due his name. And he also releases a new original song, which they sing twice. And now every annual meeting is going to have a new original song. And that's it, guys. Nothing new, nothing major announced. Just the two governing body members and two slight adjustments of the doctrine, which have no real effect. So yeah, this annual meeting was a bit of a nothing burger, pretty much. But it did have some funny moments and some really awkward things. So I will be covering some of the talks, but there's not as many things to talk about as last year. Last year, those were some big changes, some real sabotage moves for the religion, but this year they played it pretty safe. So yeah, surprisingly, there was no Samuel Hurd. There was no talk of money. They didn't mention donations, and there was no mention of apostates either. Pretty much more of the same. Some new announcements. But if we can take something from this annual meeting, is that they are very desperate for volunteers. They keep reducing the requirements to volunteer. They're just desperate. Not enough young people are showing up. So that is a good sign. And overall, I was just laughing throughout the entire program because it was just so awkward and no self-awareness. So I'm looking forward to reviewing the annual meeting and leaving some of the most interesting aspects of it for your enjoyment. As always, guys, thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a wonderful day.